Hey everyone, this is Nate. Today I'm bringing you my impressions of Out of the Abyss, the newest D&D adventure module, which I just picked up yesterday at my local game shop. It is out September 4 at Wizards Play stores and Wizards Play Network stores, and that's where I got it. And I think it's coming out 10 days later or something on at other retailers, including Amazon. And so far I'm pretty happy with it. Now, just a couple things here. Disclaimers. I don't own any of the other Adventure Path books or any of the other pre-written adventure modules, so I don't have much to compare it to in that. Secondly, this is not a review. This is just my impressions after spending probably about 7 hours with the book, reading through a lot of it, but not all of it. And I'm kind of a slow reader, and I have to read things over and over, and I look at the pictures and, that stuff. Easily distracted by shiny objects. But yeah, I've spent quite a good amount of time with it, so not a review, just my impressions, but I'll tell you what I think. And thirdly, I'm not even planning to run this adventure. I bought this for the inspiration and because I just love the Underdark. I spent a lot of years growing up reading the Drizzt novels. Drizzt Do'Urden, the famous dark elf that everybody loves to hate. But I know there's a lot of fellow fans out there. Stay strong, fans. Anyway, we're going to be opening it up and taking a look here. The cover, look at this thing. This thing is ferocious. So I remember looking at the pictures even a month or two ago, and when I picked up the actual book and saw it in person, I just realized how terrifying this beast is here. So this is one of the demon lords that the player characters may be facing along the way, you might imagine. It's got the normal, very glossy cover that has my fingerprints all over it. Rage of Demons is the product line here, and it says here, "Madness is the only escape." So yeah, madness plays into this adventure module a little bit. And I won't read all that, but it's got the usual, matte and glossy cover of these 5th edition books, which I kind of dig. Dare to descend into the Underdark. Yes, this is an Underdark campaign. All right, let's open it up and take a look. Now, there are going to be some spoilers here. I am not going to try to hold back anything in that way. I will be giving a story summary. It's got the foreword here by Chris Perkins, which is a nice little foreword from him, his reflections on the formation of this book. And then it's got this wonderful disclaimer, which I always recommend you read. So I'll read it for you. Before you take on demon lords, consult a physician. Do not drink alcohol while taking on demon lords. Taking alcohol and demon lords may increase your risk of death. Other side effects of demon lords may include hallucinations, mindless rage, gluttony, greed, paranoia, self-delusion, bestial urges, nihilism, hedonism, megalomania, a messiah complex, cannibalism, multiple personalities, and homicidal psychosis. I made it. All right, contents. Skip over that. Story summary. We're going to talk about the story a bit, and I'll just summarize that for you from what I gather. Again, I haven't read every detail, but from what I gather, I'll give you a general feeling of how the story goes. Chapter 1. The players are prisoners of the Drow, as the title implies. The prisoners, along with them, are some of these fine fellows and some of these wonderful, just a wide variety of creatures here that they are prisoners with. Descriptions of those fellow prisoners, and just right off the bat, reading these was inspirational. Thinking like, oh man, this is just an awesome sounding NPC that I would love to pull into my campaign. And you know what? Forget the rest of the book. I can run a whole campaign of just this guy's background. So yeah, just really inspirational, kind of cool and interesting stuff that I can see would really help flesh out this adventure. So yeah, the story starts off, and I'm just going to draw a diagram because I'm a very visual person. But you've got your 4 player characters, but then along with them you've got all these NPCs who are also prisoners. Your goal is to escape from the Drow, and in the first chapter here you do the Drow outpost here at Velkenville, and as you escape, each of these NPCs has different backstories and desires and different knowledge and expertise that maybe sends them in different directions. And this person really knows this area very well. This person knows this. This person really wants to go to this area, etc., etc. And so these NPCs are really going to kind of pull the characters in many directions, and they have options. So is it completely linear? No. I mean, the overall storyline is fairly linear, but there are aspects of it that are like a sandbox from my impressions of it. And so, they can choose to go to many different different places, and there's not any particular order that they have to go in here. The other thing I'll say is that at some point then it comes back, and it comes back together as the player characters eventually are going to make their way to the surface. And as they make their way to the surface, they encounter a few influential NPCs. They gather some information that is valuable to them in defeating what they have begun to perceive in this stage as a great threat of madness that is pervasive throughout the Underdark, that is being fueled by certain demon lords. And so they are wanting to defeat that. And so they gather information. I think they meet a pretty influential NPC somewhere in this stage. I'm not exactly sure. But he's a drow archmage who has a lot of knowledge. And actually, I think, kind of gives them information that sends them off to look for certain things that will help them in their quest to end the madness in the Underdark and to defeat the demon lords. So they eventually can go get these things, and my impression is that, again, these things are kind of in any order. And then once they get these things, there is a battle of the demon lords. And, yeah, it's a big mess or something. I won't give all of that away, but, yeah, that's the basic structure, as I perceive it at least, of how it goes. So it can be run sort of like a sandbox. It's not going to be like Prince of the Apocalypse. You could actually run in almost any setting. You know, this is Forgotten Realms. This is the Underdark. These are cities you know, and your players are probably going to know as Forgotten Realms cities. So yeah, it's I think pretty setting specific. Chapter 2 kind of sets a lot of the basics for the Dungeon Master, travel pace, how long it takes to travel certain places, encounters, so stuff about foraging. Madness is going to be an important one. I'll come back to that. Fungi in the Underdark, and then random encounters. There's some pretty cool roll tables here for terrain encounters. And then further descriptions of those terrain encounters here, and then creature encounters, and just kind of some random encounters you can put throughout their adventures as they're on their way, to various cities throughout the Underdark. There are also some kind of random dungeons. My impression is these are dungeons that you could put, as kind of side quests anywhere. So this one is the Hook Horror Lair. There's the Oozing Temple and the Lost Tomb. And and then we start your first, real chapter, a place that the place that the PCs can choose to go. And so this one is the Dark Lake. And in the beginning of each, it talks about why they might want to go here, what this place can do for the PCs, what might have brought them here. Is there an NPC that knows the way? Is there an NPC that really is pushing them this way? What are some different ways? And, you have some freedom as a dungeon master. You can kill off some of these NPCs in the beginning. They don't need them necessarily. There are multiple ways and reasons they can get to some of these various cities. So here's another example of a chapter where it says, going to Neverlight Grove. So here's kind of a basic description, first of all, of this place. And then why might they go here? What might have brought them here? Who might have taken them here? And then it's got some random encounters so that you can kind of, let them loose a little bit to explore this area. But also there's some story-focused stuff as well that's going to give them a reason to go here that will also further the overall storyline. So throughout the books, there are lots of really nice maps. These are really well done. There's big ones, there's small ones. So like this one right here, just a little tiny map. And then I think it's continued on the next page right here, just a little bit. And then there's some full page maps as well. So full page maps, something like this, pretty cool, nice layout. And then some city maps too, like this one right here of Menzoberranzan. And man, I just love this place. So I remember reading about this when I was younger and just being fascinated with, I called it Menzoberranzan. I think it's pronounced Menzoberranzan according to Salvatore. So anyway, really cool place. Just the intrigue, the politics, the culture of the Drow is just fascinating. Just a really unique place. Lots of cool maps in this book. A couple other things I'll just show you here. So madness, as I mentioned earlier, is a factor here. And they mentioned the rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And so, while I think you could get by without the Dungeon Master's Guide, there are lots of references to it in here. And for madness is one of those things. They give some of the basics here, but there is more detail in the Dungeon Master's Guide on madness. And then if you go to the back, take a look here in the appendix, there are these they give a summary of each demon lord. Okay, so here they are. And for each one, there's a different kind of madness. So here's the madness of, oh boy, Fraz Blue. Wow. And, different kinds of madness effects that you can have if you happen to go mad in their presence. So that kind of amps up the intensity of this adventure, is that, there's always the threat of going mad. And there are ways to cure it, and there are ways to reduce your madness level, but it's just kind of a cool thing. And some of the NPCs you'll see have gone mad too, quite a few, because the madness is spreading throughout the Underdark once again, and it comes from these demon lords. Pretty cool map here of the Underdark, well, the Upper Dark, Middle Dark, Lower Dark, and all depths. So that's kind of the overall map of some of the places that the player characters will be going. And then there's also this interesting little bit on pursuit level. So as the player characters have escaped from the drow, they are going to be pursued by the drow. And they're not going to give up so easily. So the drow are pursuing you. And that kind of also adds some intensity and a sense of urgency and maybe fear for the player characters, which I think is pretty cool. So there are things that they can do to decrease their pursuit level. And basically, it goes from, it begins at 4 with the drow not far behind the characters. And if it reaches 5, the drow forward scouts catch up to them, and the drow leaders arrive not long after. So the goal is to get it lower. So you can decrease the pursuit level by 1 for each day the party travels at fast pace. Decrease the pursuit level by 1 if a character spends time covering up the party's trail that day. With a survival check, to decrease the pursuit level by 1 each time the character cross or traverse some feature that obscures their trails, such as a river, etc. So I think that's a pretty neat little thing to add into the game, and that's something that I might take into a future campaign as well, even if I don't run it in this setting. I might end up running this adventure at some point, but I think I'll probably mostly just use it for inspiration. Great art here like this that are pretty inspiring, for me at least. So this time I'm going to skip to the appendix in the back, and we'll take a look at that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, along with kind of the fan service, there's this really cool place in here that I just have to show you. It is Graven Hollow. So Graven Hollow is the site of a library in the Underdark, and the librarians in this place are 3 stone giants, the stone library. So these guys know everything, and the library holds all of the information about the Underdark, and so of course that's going to be a valuable source for the player characters. Now there are also these echoes. Graven Hollow remembers all those who have walked its halls, and so there's these echoes of people who have been there that you can encounter, and it's almost like an encounter with that person. And so talking about fan service and kind of some cool things here. Elminster is one of the options. Another very well known people, but I would say I'm not going to roll. They're going to meet Elminster. Why not? That's awesome. So not necessarily meet him, but encounter his echo. Another thing that fans of Forgotten Realms might appreciate is the chance to meet Brunner Battlehammer. So he's a dwarf king who's very well known, and he shows up, the players get to meet him. I didn't see if they get to meet Drizzt at all. I did not see Drizzt show up, and if anyone knows whether he does, let me know. I heard mention of him a little bit from place to place in the book, but I don't think the players actually get to meet him or anything. Alright, back to the appendix now. So I just wanted to show you what's back here. So first thing here, Appendix A, modifying backgrounds. You can substitute some of the features of backgrounds and from the player's handbook and get some new bonds that are a little more maybe campaign specific. That would make sense here in the Underdark. There are a couple magic items here. Dawnbringer. This thing is basically like a lightsaber. Awesome. Then you've got creatures. Okay, so Darrow are a creature that have been around for a while. Anyway, they're kind of like Dwerger or Deep Gnomes, but a little bit different. And then, there's all kinds of other stuff here, variations, but you are going to want the monster manual for a lot of the monsters in this book. Highly recommend that, because they don't give you everything that you're going to need here. sometimes they're just going to say stuff like, yeah, take the drow from the monster manual for this character and maybe add some of the priest traits or something like that if it's a priestess of Loth, right? So there are things like that that they do. And then, of course, we've got the demon lords. So yeah, all very frightening, and really great art. And lots of spoilers in this video, but really crazy stuff. And then, so glad they do this with the afterword. They put in some concept art. So yeah, just really cool stuff, again, that can inspire your imagination a little bit. And even if you don't use them in this adventure, things that could inspire other adventures, even in your homebrew world. Oh yeah, and here's that drow archmage I was talking about, who is pretty influential in this campaign. Alright, what happens next? Well, you want to play Sword Coast Legends, of course, and I'll probably be picking up that game too. And then some other stuff that you can get from Green Ronin Publishing. Or Green Ronin. Anyway, alright, that's it, guys. This has been a look at Out of the Abyss, the newest Dungeons & Dragons adventure module. I'm really happy I bought it. I think it'll be useful for me, even though I probably won't be running it, just as inspiration, even for my homebrew world, so I can do some kind of Underdark-like adventures for my players. Yeah, if you have any comments or other questions about this thing, anything I didn't answer, anything you want to know, leave them in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and everybody take care. You'll see me again soon. Adios.